What's up guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to continue the prop and series. As I said in the last one, today I'm going to basically adapt our collision capsule to fit the prop mesh. Because if you remember, when we play, and if we are choosing to be the prop, we are kind of floating in there because we are using the default capsule component, and we do not want that. So I'm first going to go into the viewport. I'm going to go over to the capsule component, and I'm going to need to check something. So over here, when we set the player under our prop, if you are choosing to be the prop, meaning under is false, I am going to change the size of the capsule component. So I'm going to get the capsule component, and I'm going to set the height, and I'm going to set the I don't remember the name, the capsule radius. Okay, set the radius, and the values that I'm going to put here are going to be like the default ones for this cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and fit this correctly. So I think this cube is 200 by 200. So the capsule radius would have to be, let me see, what would fit well over here. Let me see, 50. I think 50 will be pretty nice. And for the height, I think we would need, let me see, 50 as well, because this is a cube after all. So let me just increase it a little bit so I see. There you go. Okay, 50 seems to be the perfect. So 50-50. You can reset the default values. Going to the event graph, and now just place 50 on the height and 50 on the radius, and now we can test that out. Boom. And as you can see, we have our updated capsule collision, and we can still go upstairs and do all that stuff, jump, etc. And just to see that it replicated, you can see over here that the other players and cubes are also with updated collision. But now we're going to want to have a couple of props in the level that we can transform into. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new blueprint over here on the blueprints folder. I'm going to make that an actor, and I'm going to say, I'm going to call this master prop. And I'm going to double click that open, and over here we're going to have the mesh. So I'm going to add the static mesh. I'm going to call this the prop mesh. And then we're going to need to do a little bit of math and calculations first to acquire the radius of our capsule. So I'm going to use 4 arrows for this. So you can just select an arrow, Control W 3 times. I'm just going to make this the top, the base, I guess left and right, which doesn't really matter where it is. So just name those. And now when we create a shell blueprint, we are just going to place this on the right spot. So I think we can close this, and now we can go over here, create a new folder. I'm just going to call this props, and I'm going to right click and create a child blueprint class. I'm just going to call this a chair, and I'm going to drag that into the props folder, and I'm going to create another one, and let's see, I'm going to call this a bush. And I'm going to drag that into the props. Now I'm going to double click both of those open, because now we need to set those values up. So for the bush, I'm going to go into the prop mesh and search for a bush that we have that comes already with Unreal. And now we need to set up our arrows. So the top arrow, we're just going to drag it up over here. So to the top of the mesh. I think that's perfectly fine. Now the base, let me just make sure you don't change the Z. I mean the X and the Y, just leave them at 0, so the calculations are perfect. The base, you can leave them at the default because it's going to be on the root. Now the left, which we can make however we want. So I'm just going to put the left over here and the right over here, I guess. Just make sure that the Z on these two are the same. So again, the calculations are perfect because we're going to be getting the distance between these arrows to get the the dimensions of our prop. And this is basically everything you have to do every time you create a new prop. So just place the prop and make these arrows stay in the right place. Now we're going to make the calculations. How are we going to do that? Basically, we are going to need to go back and go into the level. Let's just drop these in. So I'm going to put this chair over here. Oh, I forgot to make the chair. So let's just do that really quick. Prop mesh, pick up the chair. Now go to the top, drag that up here. That's fine. There you go. Now go to the left, going to 50 and drag them to the left, going to the right, place that into 50 again, and drag it to the right. And we're gonna make the the capsule is gonna be a little bit to the sides, but doesn't really matter. We don't really want to clip into walls. So it's really this simple to create new props that you want to become. We can now, I'm gonna leave them open, we might need them later on. Now I'm gonna go into the level. I'm just gonna drag these chairs and brushes into the level. So let me just rotate these like that. Now drag a brush and leave it over here. I'm just going to go into latest coin. It's not really doing anything there. So there you go. I'm going to leave it like that. And now we're going to have to go into the third person character and we're going to need to tell basically, well, what we want to do to interact with those props. So I'm going to make it so when we click E on our keyboard, we are going to check if we're aiming at the prop, and if we are, we're going to become that prop. So I'm going to go right click and search for keyboard E and select that. You can change to whatever key you want, it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to create a new custom event and I'm going to call this client check prop. Gonna execute that on the client because remember, inputs can only execute events on the client because the server doesn't know about any inputs. And now we're going to tell, well, a new custom event, and we're going to tell the server of what our client wants to do. So server underscore check prop. I'm going to run on the server. And let's just, what we're going to need to do is, let's do on the onboarding line first. So let's just go over to the E and call client check prop. So let's do that. We're going to want to do fire line trace by channel. There you go. We want to fire this from our camera, I guess. But I don't really know how to do that because we are kind of in third person. So I guess we can do it anyway. So let's just get our follow camera. I'm going to get our location. I'm going to plug that into the start. And I'm going to get the forward vector. I am going to multiply this by the distance of our line trace. So multiply this by a float. I'm just going to make this 1,000. So it's really, 10 meters. It's big. And then I'm just going to have to add this together. So drag from this, do a vector plus vector, plug this in, and plug this into the end. I'm going to make this draw debug for duration so we can see what is happening. Now let's see, on the outlet, we're going to do a break. And we're going to do from the 8 actor a cast to a master prop. So we want to know if we hit a prop or not. And if we do, we now want to do a couple of stuff. So I'm just going to get the mesh. That should be prop mesh, there you go. And I'm going to need to get the arrows. Or I'm going to get the top, get the base, get the right, and get the left. We're going to need these to make our calculations to set up the capsule component size. And to become easier, we're just gonna drag our capsule component directly from over here. And this is everything that we're gonna need to pass through this function. So now we're gonna need to basically create an input for each one of these. So the first one is going to be capsule component type. So static mesh component reference. Let's call this the prop mesh. Now we're going to need 4 arrows. So let's search for that. Arrow component reference. Let's make this the top. Can we duplicate? No, we can't. Okay. But it kind of does the same thing. So let's go to base, left, and right. Now you're going to need one for the capsule component reference. So let's call this just capsule, and the type is going to be capsule. This is a capsule collision. There you go. And get a reference. And now we're going to go over here and we're going to call that. So I'm going to call server check prop, and now we just pass in all the information. So now the client has gotten the line trace and has got all the information that it needs. And now we are just going to plug all of that through. Probably we could make the calculations before. Actually, I'm sorry to make you all lose so much time, but I'm actually going to remove the 4 arrows. We can make that outside. We don't need to make the calculations on the server. It's just going to be wasting bandwidth. So let me just do this. It's way better. And we'll just make the calculations outside. I'm going to create a new function for that. I'm going to make it get capsule. Get the capsule size. And we're going to need to return 2 outputs. It's going to be the half height. That's going to be a float. And it's going to be the radius. And we're going to have an input, which is going to be of the type capsule collision. I'll make this the capsule. And I'm actually going to check to make it pure. There you go. So let's go back into the event graph. Let's drag that in. Actually, I'm going to need the arrows again, so I'm sorry about that. Let's go into the arrow component and make this the top. Base, left and right. There you go. Now we can go back into the event graph and just connect all of these up. So the top, the base, the left, and the right. And now the capsule component, we're going to have to connect that as well. And now we're going to have to create 2 more inputs on the server check prop, which is going to be the half height. Make that a float. And also the radius. I think that's it. So connect that up. And we'll make the math last. So let's just finish this code. So what we're gonna have to do is basically get a prop mesh. You're gonna set the mesh. So let me just get the mesh. There you go. And then we're gonna get the capsule. We're gonna set the half radius or half height and connect these up. Now we are going to drag from the capsule again and set the radius. Now we just connect the radius up, and hopefully if everything's working we can test this out. Nothing is going to happen yet because we still need to make this math, but we should just see the collision happening. So if I press E, you can see that the line trace goes through myself and it's another stuff. So go over here, get over here to the bush and press E. Oh, it actually gone through the bush. Well, I think I know why. That's because the default static meshes that comes with Unreal, it comes without collision. So let's double click the brush, the brush and the chair. Go into the brush and go, well, we want, go into the collision complexity, make that use complex collision as simple, and now you can just go over here into collision and show simple collision, and make the same thing for the chair. Going to, instead of project default, use complex collision as simple, save. You can close that up. I think you can close this blueprint as well. Just make sure you save them. Now if we play again, let's just see that happening. That's going to pop up. And also now we should collide with them and we wouldn't be able to get into stuff. Now if I press E, that's okay, that's because it's complex collision and it's not eating the chair. Why is it going through? Oh, what the hell is happening? Okay, I think I missed something. Although we don't have this, this should be working, as we should become the prop. So I think I need to make this on a multicast, maybe. So go into the server check prop and make that a multicast. Let's check that again. Go into the bush, boom, there you go. Now we are the bush, and you can see that the collision hasn't been updated, but now I don't know what is happening with us jumping around. I think that's a visual glitch. Now if we go over here, okay, as the server we didn't, I don't think it's replicating correctly. I wonder why. Why is that? Oh, I know why. That's because when we do something on the multicast, we need to call it on the server first. So let me just change this name to multicast. And now I'm going to need to create a new custom event, call this server check prop again. And I'm going to need to call this on the server, make it reliable, and we're going to need to call this multicast check prop. Just try again to create new inputs. There you go. Now we're going to need to go over here and call that one. So instead of calling multicast directly, we call the server check prop. And then you can just hold control and drag to not having to be changing this manually, so you can just drag them in directly, boom, and you can delete this old one. So we're gonna now run through the server and then to everyone on the level, so all the clients. Now let's test that out again. There you go. I'm gonna be a bush, and I'm a bush. I don't know, why am I walking on my own tile? I think that has to do with the collision. I need to probably disable the collision. But now you should be able to see me as a brush, and I'm also replicating that movement that is bugging out. And you can see I'm gonna pick up this client and become the chair. Boom. Now I'm a chair and I got that bug, but you can see that the movement is replicating both on the clients and the server. There you go, there I am. Okay, the movement is bugged. I'm going to tell you in a second why. We need to disable, we basically need to disable the collision on the static mesh. So I'm going to get the prop mesh. I'm going to set the collision. And I'm going to say no collision, because we're going to be using the capsule component collision. We do not use collision enabled. So let's try that again, see it fixed. Let me go into the server, become the chair, whatever it is. There you go. Now you can see, oh, it's still happening. I don't know why is it doing this. I honestly don't know why. It kind of seems like it's physics. Like I'm kind of floating around. I don't like that. I'm gonna need to figure out why that is happening. But if I don't move, I don't really get bugged. You see, if I start moving, it's kind of like I have no gravity or whatever. It's really weird. Okay, but you can see everything is working. I mean, except that bug, it's working as expected. Let's just try and set up the capsule component math and see if the bug continues. So let's double click the get capsule size, and this is the last thing that we hopefully gonna have to do. So we're gonna have to get the distance between these arrows. So the top and the base. So I'm gonna get the world location from the top and the base. And if I go over here and I subtract these, I should get the vector between them. Oh, I need to do a vector minus vector. There you go. And hopefully, if I get the length of these, get the vector length. And remember, this is the top and the base. We need to get only the half height. We don't want the entire one. So I'm also gonna divide this by 2 and then connect this up. And the radius is going to be the same thing. So actually I'm just going to duplicate this, Control C, Control V, and just connect the left and the right, and connect this up to the radius. And hopefully it should be working. So there you go, default values. That's interesting. Now the bug disappeared, but I'm no longer at like the caption collision is not updating for some reason. That is weird. Like we're colliding correctly, and the bug disappeared, but now like it's not, the prop is not going down. Like we still have the capsule here, and we can see that visually. If you're going to the third person character, go into capsule component, and then check it in game, we can actually see that. As you can see it here. So we set that up, and now we do this. Oh, so the collision did update, but the mesh is floating. Oh, that's because of the origin. Okay, that's something that I have to talk about. So everything is working as expected, but now I need to tell you something, that you need to pay attention to your assets. So if you go into this cube, the center of the cube is its middle, it's not the bottom. Now if you go into the bush or the chair, you can see that if you show the pivot, you see that the pivot is on the bottom of the asset. So this depends on your props that you're using. If you have like a custom asset, you need to make sure your pivot is on the bottom or on the middle and make them all the same. Because if you have different pivots, some objects are maybe underground, others might be floating, as you see. So you need to make sure that all the assets that we use are starting from the bottom. So what I'm going to do to be easier, I'm going to go into and get, I guess, the rock. If you show the pivot is at the bottom as we expected. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to the collision. I'm going to make it project default, use complex collision as simple. I'm going to go over to the third person character, go into the prop mesh, make this the rock. It's a little bit too big. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, forget about that. The problem isn't actually on the the assets itself. If you notice, what we are doing here is that the prop mesh itself, the component, is on the middle of the capsule. We don't want that. We want it to be over here at the bottom of the feet, I believe, or not. You know what? Let's just try it out with the rock. I'm not actually sure how it's going to work. Just set the rock. I'm just gonna make it smaller to 0.3. No, okay, 0.5. There you go. Let's try it out like that. Now we're just gonna need to make the capsule component fit this. Actually, for us to do that, we actually need to make it go backwards or downwards, I guess. So let's just bring it here, probably a little bit more to the middle, and make sure that our capsule component fits the rock as we want. So let's just drag it out to the bottom like that. I guess that's fine. Probably gonna just need to make it a little bit fatter, so the capsule radius to be, I guess, 55 or something. Let's go back to the event graph and go over to the default that we have over here. Where is it? There you go, up here, over to the multicast set player. I'll make the radius, first of all, I'm gonna not do this because we're gonna leave it at the same, and just set the radius to be, I'm gonna leave it at 55, maybe that's for the best. And let's see what happens. With the assets always, all being on the pivot being on the bottom of the mesh, I think it may work. So let's wait, there we are. Let's become the brush, and there you go. Now, I don't know why, is this the capsule component is actually not setting. I'm not sure why. There you go, but the thing is, it's working, and I think we are probably going to have a little problem. Okay, I know something why is wrong. We need to make this prop mesh back to 1, because if we scale it down over here, we're gonna be changing the entire meshes that we become. When we become a prop, we're gonna scale it down. We do not want that, so I'm just gonna make this prop mesh like that. And one thing that I noticed as well is that when we do this like this, we're actually not setting the prop, and I do not know why. I think the math is right, but the capsule component doesn't even change. Anyway, let's try that out again. Okay, so now it's going to be a little bit weird because this mesh is just too fucking big. Let's try and there you go. There you go, now it's working. If we scale things correctly, we now have our collision for our little thing. Chair. And now if we go over to the bush, and if I can hit it, we have things setting up for the bush, and we can go ahead, collide, and we can add, and you actually can see that everything replicates from the server between clients. We can pull this one up. Now we are the hunter, and we can see them, and we can collide with them. And just one last thing that I just remembered, before we do this, we want to check something. Oh, not this, I want a branch. If we are the hunter, we do not want to do this, so let's create a branch from the false, and we can only do this if we are not an hunter. There you go. So with this, we can become a prop, and what you can do is, instead of becoming the rock itself, you can become something smaller, like a table. Let's just do that for finishing the video. It's quite big, it's half an hour. I'm gonna take loads of time to upload this. But let's go into the table round. Go into the third person, go into the mesh, the prop mesh, and go into table round. And as you can see, we can actually leave that like that, I guess. Actually, it doesn't matter, we can do this like that. There you go. Let me just fit this up, make it a little bit smaller, so capsule height, we can make it 74. Right now I'm just adjusting values, it's not really needed for you. So I'm gonna set the half height. (274). Now let's try this one last time. Play. There you go, we are on the ground with our custom collision. Let's become the chair. There you go. Oh, this is our hunter. Actually, you can test this out. We are not firing anything, and it's not working if we are the hunter. Now if we go back to client, wait, what? Why we are? Okay, that's weird. Did I use this one? I actually don't remember. So yeah, I guess that's it. I think there's something wrong here. Let's just make our thing a tiny bit higher because I think I changed it and it didn't really work that well. Let's test this one last time. Check, be in bush. There you go, we are a bush perfectly. Go back into this guy. And boom. We are the chair, perfect collision as we want, and now we can go ahead and hide. Okay, and that's it. Sorry for being it too long, and I kind of backtracked a little bit, but I wasn't really sure how to do this the first time because I've never done anything like this. So yeah, on the next video, I'm going to now enable our hunter to kill our props. And then maybe, yeah, I think that's going to be for the next video. So sorry again for making the video so long and kind of backtracking. Hopefully you guys understood how to do this, and maybe you can change some of the values of the collisions if you want. Just remember to make sure your meshes, like the pivot, is on the bottom of them and on all of them, so this actually works. But from now on, you can do is go into the blueprints, and it's very easy. Just create a child blueprint of the master prop, put the arrows in its place, place the prop mesh, the arrows in its place, and it's just as easy as that to create a new prop. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.